Thank you so much for being here, Governor. What is your first money memory?
My first money memory was probably allowance.
Yeah.
Was the idea that you had to do a certain number of chores and tasks to earn those dollars. And then the things that I wanted, I could not afford even with that allowance. Of all things at my age, I remember rollerblades and how expensive they were, or when Air Jordans first came out. And I think what it taught me is an appreciation of both how you earn money, but also maybe what you ought to spend it on and making those decisions. With that said, my son came home with a pair of Jordans the other day.
What, do you know what color or like
Oh,
style?
they're blue and white.
Yeah, okay, cool. You beat candidates handpicked by Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. How did that feel?
It felt great. It felt great because those two individuals not only supported my opponent, but they did so in a way that created hate and anger. They used the type of anger politics that I think has no place in our world. They try to turn Kentuckians against each other, neighbor against neighbor, and I think that's just wrong. So we not only beat their candidate, but we beat anger politics, and I was hoping that that would be a template.
Yeah.
But I think Kamala Harris is going to have to win this presidential election, and then hopefully we can end this style of anger politics for good.
You mentioned, I was at the Washington State Democratic breakfast. You mentioned how big unions are as part of your platform. Tell me more about why unions are so incredibly important.
Well, unions built the middle class.
Yeah.
They've created the strongest middle class that the world has ever seen. They fought for better wages. They fought for safety in the workplace. In Kentucky, we've had some of the best years of workplace safety, and that would not have started if unions hadn't demanded that culture. But now with our economy exploding, we were number 3 in per capita economic development last year.
Wow.
Number 2 the year before. Almost all of our big battery plants that we're building the 2 biggest on planet Earth, are being built with the building trades, union labor. And I'm seeing the private sector and unions come together in a more positive way than I've ever seen. Part of that are the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, requires you to pay a level of wages to where the employers are saying, of course we'd use union because it's the most skilled.
Yeah.
But that's really changing hearts and minds when they come together. And the other thing is the extremism of Donald Trump, telling Elon Musk he'd fire anybody that was on strike, attacking private corporations for their hiring or investment practices. That's pushing the private sector further and further away from that brand of extremism. And again, opening up more of those conversations.
For you, what role does accessible healthcare play in financial stability?
Oh, it is absolutely critical. This has been a part of my family's legacy. So my dad, first generation college in my family, became governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And now we're the only father-son to have ever done that in our state's history. He expanded Medicaid. And when he did, 600,000 Kentuckians got health care for the first time.
Wow.
I governed during COVID, and I got to see what having a rural hospital open meant in terms of saving lives. So first, it's imperative. It's an issue of life versus death, and you shouldn't have to drive 2 hours or take 2 buses to go see your doctor. But then it has to be affordable too. And so these prescription drug caps that the Vice President is talking about, the caps on insulin, which so many people need, are so important because having to decide between groceries or prescription drugs or paying the rent is something that nobody should have to face, especially when there are good jobs out there.
Yeah, and understanding all of the costs of being a human in general,
Yes.
and then add, lack of accessible healthcare on top of that.
That's right.
It's debilitating.
And what healthcare can be so expensive that one problem, one car wreck, one condition can change so much. But that's also why the Affordable Care Act was so transformative. Because before, if you had a pre-existing condition, and heck, we all have pre-existing conditions, and some of what they call pre-existing conditions weren't. They called pregnancy a pre-existing condition, would get you kicked off your health care or wouldn't cover it. Project 2025, which is Donald Trump's plan, would eliminate the Affordable Care Act, and pre-existing conditions would be back. So really important we win this race. For accessible health care, but also affordable health care.
Well, and speaking of health care, let's talk about reproductive health care, because How do we ensure that remains accessible to all women, regardless of socioeconomic status?
Well, we have to elect Kamala Harris as president, and then we have to pass Roe into federal law.
Yes.
Donald Trump wants to say, leave it to the states, thinking he's doing a good thing. In my state, we have a ban so extreme, we don't have exceptions for rape, incest, or non-viable pregnancies. Last night at the DNC, Hadley Duvall, one of my citizens, one of my friends, talked about her pain and her truth, that her stepfather started abusing her when she was 5 and she became pregnant at 12. Today, she would have no options living in my state. We had a couple talk about their non-viable pregnancy and the idea you'd have to carry it to term just to listen to your child pass away or hear nothing. Just as scary in
my
that
mom had
moment.
an ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah.
So literally they have told her if she would have waited one day longer, she would have died. And of course my mom wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be here. So.
And this truly is freedom.
Yes.
I mean, women should get to make their own decisions about their own bodies.
And feel protected.
Yes,
right.
and it shouldn't be two guys, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, making those decisions for people. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't make very good decisions in his personal life.
He does not.
We've seen that, and him casting judgment on anybody is wrong. And so we really do need to ultimately get this into federal law and to make sure that we have presidents that appoint a Supreme Court that will actually look out for people's rights and not tear them away.
How do you believe that paid family leave can contribute to long-term economic growth, especially in more rural areas?
Well, I think we need it because our workforce is so critically important and we're creating so many jobs. And so you could think about it if you're on the corporate side from attrition, making sure that you have your employees for the long term and knowing that investing in them is worth it. It also allows people to get better and better at what they do, not having to leave that job. It makes us more productive. And if we're doing it right, we're cross-training employees too.
Yes.
And you see so many great companies that do that, and they keep people for 20, 30, 40 years.
Why is it so important to support Democrats up and down the ticket, especially this election, and also Kamala Harris for our president?
Well, it's critically important for so many reasons. First, when you look at our economy right now, you see investments in the future from President Biden, everything from battery plants to chip factories. You see reshoring of our supply chain, so we'll never go through something like we did in COVID ever again. And then you see Vice President Harris putting out a plan that helps people right now. More affordable housing, help buying that first house, expansion of middle class tax credits that are out there, things that actually help people. And that's so important as opposed to Donald Trump's plans that'll boost tariffs and ultimately make everything cost more. The last time he was in office, they put a tariff on bourbon. And 95%
You're
of the world's
from Kentucky.
95% of the world's bourbon's made in Kentucky.
Bless you, by the way. Thank you for
the other
that.
5%'s counterfeit. But that was going to cost our companies hundreds of millions of dollars and cost us jobs. That's what happens when you just start throwing tariffs on people you don't like because you had a bad night's sleep. And so what we need are rational people in office, rational economic policy, and so it's so important that we win this election.
Yeah, please don't take away my bourbon. That would be
we will make sure that we've got that supply going.
I appreciate that. Thank you. My last question for you. We have a community of women who are so activated, who are so just the fullest versions of themselves when they have money. And it's my favorite thing. But I think that there is just this idea or misconception that I can't do anything as an individual. I can't make a change in our government, and this feels so beyond me. I feel hopeless. So what do you have to say to those women who just feel like, I can't vote, it doesn't matter?
Well, I'd say we see you, we value you, you are important, and we need you to be involved.
Yep.
I won my governor's race in 2019 by 0.1%. That was the difference. Between
0.1.
0.1.
Do you know how many votes? You've got to know how many votes.
A little over 5,000.
Yeah, wow.
I won my attorney general's race before that by 2,201 votes. But our governor's race, which elected a woman lieutenant governor, Jacqueline Coleman, who is my partner in governing, we won by 1.5 votes per precinct. So if that person doesn't think they matter, 1.5 votes per precinct, take a friend.
Right,
and together,
you need that half.
You won us that last election. And Kentucky's booming. And we wouldn't be in this place without everybody. But it also made me grateful. It knowing that everything that everybody did was important.
Yeah.
And making sure that we have women involved in government is so important. I mean, the world is still not fair, and it should be.
Yep.
I mean, I'm raising a son and a daughter, and they deserve a world that treats both of them equally, and the only way that's going to happen is to have more women in government that are demanding the changes that are necessary to finally get to that better point. That's my wish for my daughter Lila, but that's also my wish for my son Will.
Thank you, Governor, for your time and for your work.
Thank you.